Hi Pokpokman, I'm Chandler, and welcome to Maine. Today we're talking about the highest grossing film from 1916, Intolerance. Now, last week we took a look at D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. These two films are intrinsically linked, because this is a response to the response that D.W. Griffith got to The Birth of a Nation. So eventually, it got released in 1916 in September. The full length is 2.5 hours, but most surviving cuts are only 3 hours and 17 minutes, so we don't really know what happened in those 13 minutes, but it might not be all that important. So this film, it actually tells 4 stories from 4 different time periods, all intercut together, but I'm gonna tackle it in full chronological order just to simplify things, and because they don't really significantly impact each other. We start off in Babylon in 539 BC, where the men are discussing the thought of marrying Mountain Girl, and Mountain Girl more disgusted about the thought of marrying. So she gets permission from the high priest Belshazzar to not have to marry. Then she kind of just indebts her life to him, and eventually dies defending him when the great Cyrus of Persia decided to attack Babylon and the high priest Belshazzar through a conspiracy with the other priests of Babylon, which leads to Belshazzar's death. Not before he gets a kissing, but not with a woman, with a man in 1916 in 539 BC. Now, obviously, this attack was sprung out of intolerance. Next, we go to AD 27, after the wedding of Cana, where intolerance leads to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. After that, we go to 1527 in France, where the Huguenots and the Catholics are a bit intolerant towards each other, so eventually it leads to the massacre of St. Bartholomew Day. I guess this one is technically affected by the Jesus Christ storyline, because without him, Catholicism wouldn't exist. Finally, the latest events of the film in the modern day of 1914. Where Miss Jenkins and the higher-ups at her company, Jenkins Mills, a 10% pay cut to all their workers, which creates an upheaval. So then, the daughter of a worker, who shall be called the dear one, the daughter of a Jenkins Mill employee, falls in love with a Jenkins Mill employee. He's called the boy, and these two have a child. The child ends up being taken away by the higher-ups of Jenkins Mill because the dear one was caught drinking whiskey. Later on, someone ends up dying in the dear one's apartment, and the boy gets blamed because it was his gun that was used. So he gets brought into court and is found guilty and sentenced to death after a stint in jail that's just long enough for these next events to occur. The governor comes to the city to try and help, but then he leaves off in a train. But the murderer actually confesses to the crime, and so they have to chase after the train in an automobile to catch up with the governor on the train at another station, get him to sign a paper pardoning the boy, and then drive all the way back. Once they get back to the city, they go to the gallows where the boy is currently tied up and about to be hanged, when they show the governor's pardon to the hangman, so he unties the boy. And I gotta say, at this point, I kind of thought that one of the rope cutters was gonna attack the boy, but I mean, that's just something that would happen if this was made in modern day. You probably would see that, because we just love to get people attacking after we've called peace. Watching this movie took me over a week, because I fell asleep the first night I tried to watch it, which I kind of fell asleep around the 20-minute mark, and I was woken up 25 minutes later by my sibling. so I just had to break it up into chunks so that I was like actually awake, so I could actually view what's going on in the film. There were definitely moments when I was like, I'd rather be watching The Birth of a Nation again. But, I mean, now that I'm finally filming, I actually have a much deeper appreciation for this film. And also, I love William Gish's performance. With a budget of $385,907, grossed $1.75 million, meaning it profited $1,346,907, or about 3.5 times its budget. William Gish and D.W. Griffith would once again team up for a #1 film of the year with Way Down East in 1920. But we're not taking a look through all of D.W. Griffith's #1 films throughout the years. We're taking a look at the #1 film from each year. So, actually, we'll be taking a look at 1917's version of Cleopatra. I'm gonna get through all the films that I named. I will get to Way Down East this year, because I do have that film. I don't currently have 1917's Cleopatra, but I will still tackle it this month of February, because, or not this month, the month that this video releases, which is March.